talk? Well, tonight it's definitely a man's world. I have an audience full of men, a panel full of men, and we are trying to get real on what do men think. Welcome to the show. So I'm going to introduce my panel, kicking off with broadcast veteran Michael Oyer, event maestro Chris Kirua, also radio presenter Alex Mwakideo, and from Man Enough I have with us tonight David Nyaga. So I'm going to ask you men, as a woman, representing all the women in Kenya, and because we live in a digital world, I believe even from all over the world, what do men want?
That is a profound question, and I'm assuming you're talking within the sphere of relationships.
Absolutely.
Yes, because there are many things that men want, and maybe most of the things are not necessarily within the sphere of relationships. But when we talk about relationships, I would not dare talk on behalf of all men, one, but I may be able to suggest that as complex as women are, so men have their complexities. And because the woman does not understand the way the man is actually communicating, does not mean that he has not put across what he wants.
So, just on that point, how do men communicate?
We use less words. We will say it probably once and say it within a context where we presume that it's being taken very seriously. And we may not repeat it, but what we said in the first instance still stands.
Chris, in the Kenyan context, do you think that Kenyan, like he put it, a man will say it once and he means it. So do you feel like that's something that has been, thus far, looking at the society, been established between the two genders?
The first few days when you're dating a man, weeks to a month, you need to listen keenly to what he's saying. Because I think we mean what we say and do what we say. So, if I take, for example, my relationship, and I think it's easier to use my relationship. The first day I met her, I looked at her and told her, I want to marry you. First day, you can imagine.
And you meant it?
Straight, I want to marry you. So we can do all these things that we need to do here, coffee dates and all those stuff. And then after that, that's where I want to end up in. So when a man says, they know. Number two, it's depending on who you are as a lady, I can decide to classify you. Either I'm going to take you very seriously, or I think I'm just going to have a friendship with you, or just have a temporary relationship with you. So we classify you very fast. And like he says, it's very few words. We don't know how to match word by word from you.
Yeah.
So most of the time, we will be listening. Yeah.
Mwakideo, are you a man of few words as well?
I'm a man of few words, and I believe every man seated here, in the audience, when watu wanakaa chini, wanatulia, wanafocus, kisha wanaamua. You understand? So, for example, this is real talk with real men, and we are supposed to discuss real issues. And what a man is looking for is a real woman. You understand? Just a real woman, not the one we see today.
Ukisema hivi, a man is looking for a real woman.
Yeah.
Who or what would make a real woman? Describe the qualities.
It's so clear. Acha nikwambie Tamima. And tusidanganyane hapa kwa real talk. Hii ni real talk. My mother, your mother, our mothers here, walikaa kwa relationship miaka mingi sana. You get? That's why sisi tulizaliwa kwetu 7 of us. Today, the rate at which watu wanawachana is almost 50% plus. I'm not saying that ati wanawake wasikuwa elevated, wafike levels fulani. But unaweza kuendelea. I've seen women who wameendelea katika maisha yao, katika career zao, katika masomo, and so many other things, but they are not competing against men. Fikiri siku hizi hakuna ule ushauri mama na kulelea aunties, wanakwambia ukiolewa kuwa hivi, ishi hivi,
So, just on a point that you raised there, yeah, on the issue of being on the same level.
Yeah.
So you're saying that the man and the woman are not on the same level.
Of course.
And then bringing in the context of vile mama wetu walilelewa, have you taken into consideration that different times, perhaps different script?
That will never happen. There's never at a different time and different script and different scenario and different what. No.
So probably in your context, what does it mean to you as a man for me to know that I am a woman?
For you to know you're a woman, of course, take care of yourself as a woman, number one. If you have a boyfriend or a husband, you have to recognize that he's the man of the house, he's the head of the house, and the Bible says so, you understand? And then recognize that he makes all the rules, and his word is final. You understand?
His word is final?
Yes, it is.
I'm seeing Chris. David, I'm coming to you, but Chris, you are literally on the floor. Like, what's running through your mind hearing Mwakideu talk?
There reaches a point where if the man you're dating has a certain belief system of what he thinks his role or who he is as a man and what needs to be respected, if you cross that boundary, conflicts will occur very fast, too fast that you won't know what's happening. And it can happen because either you, as a woman, you are being influenced by how you are brought up, by who you socialize with, who you hang out with, or your own certain belief systems that tells you a man cannot tell me anything or I am equal to a man. Once you have a mindset that now there's no difference between us and what is he telling me, that's a source of conflict. Sometimes, to use a Kiswahili word, kunyenyekea will give you more results than being confrontational.
So mwanamke lazima asubmit, anyenyekee.
Just submit, and let me tell you the truth. You submit, and you will still have what you want from that man without necessarily being confrontational.
So, David, you are from Man Enough.
Yes.
And so far you've had everybody up here speak. Your thoughts?
For me, a woman in a relationship for me is someone who, number one, realizes that I'm a man, and with that knowledge now respects me. Because for me, respect is a need for a man. So she respects me, and that way she's able to submit. And now, I know for submission is a very powerful thing for a woman. It's not really to say that now you stoop low, or you bend over like the Ugandans, you know how they do. Like there's one dear friend of mine went to a Ugandan airport and he was received by Ugandans, and the way they greet each other, you know, they really stoop low. And so sometimes you want that as a man, but that's not the case really. For submission, it's recognized that a woman, you're very powerful. You have this influence. God has given you this wisdom, this intellect, especially for women in this context, or in this age right now. You are learned, you have money, as in you can match up. If you have a car, I have one, she has one as well. But realizing that you have all these things, but you'll actually bring them under control, or you'll be meek, and you say, you know what, I let this man lead me. So in a sense, that for me is like, for me now, is like the definition of a woman really. That you know you're that powerful, and then you just allow yourself to actually be led by this man. You give it over to this man to lead you.
We took some questions from women across the country, and we have here Sarah, who's asking, do you think that men are threatened by women?
You know, men need women and women need men.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Then, depending on the environment of my being raised and nurtured, I've been nurtured and raised to be a certain way as a man, and I've been nurtured and raised to expect certain things from a woman in the future. Are men threatened because women are earning more? I don't think that is the issue. You could earn the world, but what David said, as a woman has a need to be loved, defined by the woman, not defined by the man, because the man will say, but I love you. I gave you a house, you have a car. But that's not what the woman thinks of love.
Yeah.
So a man has a need for respect. And respect is not the way the woman defines respect. It is the way the man sees what respect is. And it is in the same way love is not, it's not tangible.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Respect is not tangible.
Absolutely.
But I will certainly tell you, this is not respectful. I like using the example of a beautiful flower. As it blossoms, I know we're men here and we don't, flowers, we might not recognize flowers, but if we see a flower,
Only on
we know
Valentine.
that flower is good.
Yes.
Now, when you see such completeness in itself, the flower, then you want that flower to be a part of your life.
I want to ask, if you want me to treat you like a king, treat me like a queen. since I'm that flower you've identified, nakuvutia. So are you the guy who'll come and pluck the flower? Or are you the guy who's going to spend time, water, weed, so the flower can continue
you didn't
blooming?
let me finish, huh? I didn't say pluck, just for good measure. I did this, which means scoop with the soil.
Put it in
so
a voice.
You can tend and care for. It is really not easy because there are thorns in that beautiful flower.
Absolutely.
And when those thorns prick, can you tell a flower, you've pricked me? You just suck your finger and deal with the pain. And the truth is, there are many men who are getting pricked, stabbed, or whatever it is, and they do what?
Hang in
They
there.
take it in. They take it in. And what do they give back? They give back more love that they don't understand, but they give more, and they give more. But what we have out there is men beat women, men kill women, men sit on women. That's the story that we hear a lot of.
So you're saying men are represented. The narrative that there are bad men is louder than the narrative that there are good men out there. You guys agree with that? Yeah? So, and still on that, because you're saying that there are good men out there, which I thoroughly believe as well. But again, as a man, yeah, for you to feel like, why is that narrative that there are bad men being pushed louder than the one that they are good men? Why do you think that is?
Obviously, the negative will always outshine the good, okay? But we need to keep shining this light of what good is happening in relationship. And I think it's a process. Depending on who you call a good man, that good man is probably a result of a lot of processes that he has undergone all the way to where he presently sits and being looked up as a good man. I don't think there's any woman that is born to be bad. At some point in their life, something probably goes wrong.
Somebody hurt them?
Hurt them, or something happened, and then they start changing how they think about a man. I'm going to where now more conflicts occur, where, yes, I have married you, and then I still want to hang out with my friends. You still want to hang out with your single friends. Of course, the conflicts will be there because these people don't believe in it. But if you hang around people in the same circle and we in the same situations, then it's a bit easier to talk.
There's a lot of pressure on this Kenyan man who, like you've all properly put it, doesn't quite talk a lot. He says very little. So how does he deal? How do you guys deal?
We will say behind every successful man, there's a good woman. Any woman can't make a man successful, can't help get a man, to that place where he wants to be. Which means that good woman would be the one, the wife and the mother, the one who takes care of the family. You're working and you're hustling hard huko nje, unajituma kabisa, knowing very well that at home, watoto wamefanya homework, watoto wamekula, wameoga, wamevaa vizuri. There is a good woman at home. You see the way the Bible says, for example, and I'm a Christian by the way, lelewa kikristo, kwamba women submit. Then men love your wives the way Christ loved the church. You
So
understand?
men nurture.
So inaanzaga hivyo. Mwanamke akisubmit awe the good woman, automatically the man will love the woman. You understand?
Right, so some very interesting views here from the men on my panel. Remember, you can join the conversation by joining the hashtag #RealTalk on Facebook, Twitter, and on Instagram. Let us know what your views are on this topic. What do men really think? What are some of those stereotypes that we carry forward in the society about men today? Well, right now, we'll be taking a very quick break. Don't go too far. We'll be right back. Welcome back to Real Talk. Tonight we are talking about it's a man's world and what do men really think. So I have with me questions from women across the country, and I'm going to be asking my panel full of men. I also have with me experts in the audience, and we're going to open it up to the audience and you as well watching from home. Let us know what your views, comments, and feedback is. You can get on that hashtag #RealTalk on Twitter, Facebook, and on Instagram. So jumping straight into it, I have with me Diane Masinde. Diane is a relationship coach and expert. So Diane, you've been in the audience this entire time, just listening to the conversation that I've been having with nice gentlemen up here, the good men. So from the good men, because you counsel couples, both men and women. So what is your take on all this?
We as men need to know you shouldn't be placed in a situation where you don't want to go. You know, a lot of men are getting married because they just want to please the women. The second thing that was mentioned was the first things that men say when they're dating is very important. That's a yes and a no. Yes, if you're dating a man who's serious about you, what he means is very true. No, sometimes men, when they want to lure a woman into getting something, they will tell the woman what she wants to hear.
They'll say all the right
things.
things.
They will say all the
yes.
good things. They will. I've had cases whereby the man says, if you get a child, I'm going to be with you. We're going to get married. Once the sex happens, they bail. So it depends what kind of a man you're with. I saw men, tukijichocha hivi tukisema our word is final. That is not true. That is where we miss it. Our word is not final. I think we need to interrogate what's the motive of why we get into relationships. Motive is everything. If your motive is to be hard in what it is that you say and what it is final, then that is not marriage. That is not a relationship.
Do you guys agree with him? Your word is not final?
Yeah, no.
Alex?
Yes.
That was my point.
Yes.
And this was my point,
Yes.
by the way. In a family setup, or even in a country,
Yes.
lazima kuna where the buck stops. You understand? We will have a discussion, of course. We will talk about it. I'll raise the issue. Niseme nataka tuhame tuingie 3-bedroom. All right? From this 2-bedroom. Why? Because you're having another child. All right? So we'll discuss. When we disagree completely, then whose word is final?
I think we gentlemen need to accept the fact that sometimes we can also be wrong. We can also be wrong. And sometimes women can be right. You know? And on the issue of submission, since a lot of us have quoted the Bible, if you go back to before even that verse, it says, submit to one another as unto Christ. Both of us. Let me tell you what submission is. Putting down the I so that there can be a we. That is submission. If you really want to enjoy relationships and marriages, marry your best friend and stay married to your best friend. Because when it's your best friend, you don't argue about roles. My place is this, my place is this. When you have a best friend, if you see your best friend in trouble, you sort your best friend out. When you see your best friend in need, you sort your best friend out. So this best friend just happens to be a woman you have children with, you're building a family with, your best friends. So once you take care of the best friends, these whole arguments of roles, responsibilities, my way, your way, whatnot, this gender issue gets sorted out. Because when you're with your pals, if your pal was to call you at 2 a.m., your boy, I'm in trouble. You drop everything. You're like, boy, I'm coming for you. Do you do that for our women? Our women, our best friends, that's the key thing. I need to let men know that you can be respected and yet despised. Your wife can do the things that say that you're respected and yet she despises you. She can come down to you, kneel down when you enter inside the house, cook for you, all those things, yet she despises you. And do you feel respected? Yes. So let us know that you can respect somebody and not love them, but you cannot love somebody and not respect them.
Nice words, man. So next I want to introduce Brian Aseli just to jump into the conversation. Brian?
Hey, I've had a whole lot of things, and basically I'm a young guy, I haven't married. I'm not married yet, but then there's a whole lot of competition, and I'd like the gentleman to just talk to us about the same, because as a young man, I'm being compared to so many other different guys. I'm being compared to the father of the girl. I'm being compared to this guy, babe, you're 25, and GMO has a ride. Why is it that you don't have a ride? So those are some of the questions I'd like the men to just respond.
I'm going to throw the question to Chris. I'm seeing you're very eager. You're literally jumping out of the seat to answer this one.
You see, he mentioned something very important. Motive. As to why we are in this relationship. And now once you circle that word motive, then everything else that you went through, you as a man, you as a lady, will come to this motive. This is what I mean. Peer pressure is real. And I'm happy we have a young man here. So even us, when we are growing up, and I'm sure it applies to this gentleman here, there was pressure to live up to the expectation of the girl child, to be able to be looked up to. It was drummed in our ears, depending on the age you are. And me, I come from the old school. And we are taught to be men and not to cry, not to show emotion, not to do all these things that you guys expect us to do. So if GMO is being told why he doesn't have a ride and James has a ride, then that's already pressure. Do you know what? It will drive this man to even decide to use unorthodox means to be able to acquire this ride, to be able to be respected.
So women look at men as objects of success.
There are those who do that.
Yeah.
And there are also guys who simply want to be with a woman who is all made up and looking all nice just to impress his boys. But deep inside at home, the guy is suffering. But he has to try and look good because each of his friends has this particular woman that everybody looks at and decides, this is the kind of woman I want to marry. Maybe we guys grew up in a better era than the era they are growing up in right now.
Because there was no social media.
Yeah, there was no this kind of pressure that you really have to live up to certain standards.
Alex, Mwakideo, you had something to say to Dan.
Yes,
I
have
saw.
something to say, by the way. I had to Google that.
You even Googled.
My phone. You know, Ephesians 5:22 to 23. Wives, submit yourselves to your own husbands as you do to the Lord. 23, for the husband is the head of the wife, as Christ is the head of the church. All right? His body of which he is Savior. 24, now as the church submits to Christ, so also wives should submit to their husbands in everything. Listen, guys.
Diane, a chance to respond to Alex.
Yes. I also have my phone. I also Googled it. It's interesting how you went to 22 and you forgot verse 1.
Ooh.
Shall I read for you verse 1?
Okay, please.
And actually the title is this, Instructions for Christian Households. Verse 21, submit to one another out of reverence for Christ. It starts like that, and then it continues. Let me help men to understand what it means to be a leader. A leader is a matter of function. It's not a position. It's a function. You see, when, for example, if Tamima was to employ me, it's not that she's better than me. It is just that for the vision to work, there has to be a function, no leader. So that's the same thing in marriages and in families. There has to be a functional leader.
Or who's the leader?
The leader is the man. And guess what the leader does? A leader serves. The question is, do we gentlemen
But the leader is the
serve?
man.
Yes. Do we gentlemen serve? So that's the most important thing, because a lot of us have a false understanding of what submission is. We feel that submission is, when I say something, you do it. No questions
Absolutely.
asked. When I say it's authoritative, that's what we think submission is. And that's why women wonder, how do you expect me to submit yet you mistreat me? And so this home is called under our name. We started it. We went and pursued the woman. We watered her, right? We watered her. Even that scripture talks about watering now. Water your wife and then present her to you, that she's attractive. Do we water our wives? Do we water our women? So when you want to talk about leadership, we have to serve our households, not dictate, not be a tyrant. We have to serve our households.
Tamima, I'd like to interject on Mwakideo's behalf, because if I listened to Mwakideo correctly, he spoke about a final situation where we cannot move. And if I use Dan's examples in organizations, someone needs to take it for the team. Make a decision, and if we sink, we sink. If we rise, we rise. And in the Christian way of life, which is what we're focusing on, that falls on, based on the scripture, the man. And I'd like to answer, I think, Brian, isn't it? To something that Brian was alluding to. And the difficulty. I'll admit, I faced the same challenge. I remember a girlfriend, and I saw her father. And I told myself, I shall provide for her what her father is providing when I marry her. Like, at the same time. Now, that's dreaming. That is a near impossibility. I mean, the man has worked for at least 25, 30 years, so he's ahead. The stuff was in my head. The expectation was created of myself first. She never asked me to provide for her the same way as her father does. I know today, maybe, that's a reality. You're told me, I need to live the way my father has taken care of me. It's a totally different context. if I knew myself with greater clarity and making choices not based on what she says and wants of me or the society expects of me, but based on real principles such as the Christian ones, which I ascribe to, and then go out into the world. And if this lady does not fit, you just move on. No hard feelings. Yeah. It's okay. You'll be my friend forever. And then you go.
Friend forever. Okay. Let me add. You had something to add to that?
The scripture they've just read, the context also says, husband love your wife, as Christ has loved the church. And I think the first instance is for a man has to first love, and the woman then has to submit. So it starts with man loving. The thing for me I find is that man is looking for a place of kingship. How do the woman respond to me as a king? You understand? And that is what we are trying to look for. Man wants to feel like I'm in control. Even when he is not in control, he wants to feel like I'm in control of certain things. And this home, I'm the one who says. Man is looking for more power. The woman should understand the place is the place of influence. And sometimes influence is more important than power. Because influence gets things done, and power sometimes might get stuck at a certain point.
I'm going to invite Duke from Man Enough. Duke Monari, please jump onto the conversation.
Thank you very much. When I listen to all this, actually I realize I'm more worried about the many years ahead of me than the ones I have lived. If I am hurt in my relationship, I am likely to make certain decisions about how I'm going to treat my wife. And as a result, the people I interact with out here, I am going to treat them as a result of the experiences and the pains that I have gone through. So it's up to me to realize that there are certain qualities I can pick up from Michael Oyer, and they will make me a better person. But it doesn't mean that I have to change who I am and lose my identity to become Michael. Then who will be Duke?
Okay, so still on that context, because the one thing that has come out in this room very vocally is that, yes, men do communicate, but maybe they don't communicate enough. Do you think that has something to do with how you were raised? Because if I was to ask every man in this room, do you perhaps think that your relationship with your father has an impact on perhaps how you relate with women, how you relate with other men, and even how you relate with your children? For those in the room who have kids, maybe let me throw it back to Michael.
The question suggests that there is something very wrong with the way men are communicating. If there's something wrong here and we're intertwined together, then there's something wrong here too. The expectation is that a man will speak a lot. We do. About football, about things out there. When it comes here and my thoughts, I find that we're probably more careful about them because of the care with which we need them to be carried and treated. When I share a little piece of information that is important to me, I will carefully watch how that information is treated. If it is, as you suggested, despised, if it is not received with the importance with which it was being put across, it doesn't matter what it is or whether you think it's small, or did you take it and treat it with the care? Are you going to get more of such information? Am I going to build on it? The probability is no. And you're going to get more and more frustrated because he doesn't talk to me. But if you study it somewhere, you gave him good reason to be a little more cautious when he gives you information.
Are Kenyan men allowed to have emotions?
One of the needs that every man needs to know, and according to our research, is that every man needs a safe space. I will latch on to what Oyera said. Whenever I communicate something, I need it to, when I communicate it, it has to be taken with a certain form of weight, attention, and I can't just communicate to anyone. I have to make sure the environment here is safe enough, whereby if I share, for example, I'm struggling with this, or this is what I'm going through, you will not really judge me or look at me in a funny way. You will actually understand me. So what we normally do in this program And what men have come to appreciate is that even some men really, when they come, many of them have never really opened up because number one, they don't feel safe enough. Even if it's with their buddies, we will never really talk and just talk about what is really hurting them.
I like the dynamic that you're introducing because you're saying an emotional support system is important also to the man.
We are actually emotional. The way we are wired really as men, we are more logical than we are emotional, but still we have emotions. And the way I deal with my issues, or many men, you can agree with me, is that we cave in. We don't just come and speak to you, but we process first. We are logical about it. So why is 1 + 2 + 3 is this way? Another thing, let me add here that we've come to discover. One of the reasons as to why we as men are in crisis is because of the lack of structures that were there in the olden days.
Yeah.
There has to be structure. For me to come and open up to any man, we can't just start, okay, Nyambie, tell me what your issue is. No. We'll actually just start pole pole, until now you come and zero in into that matter. So in the olden days, actually, there has to be structure whereby the old men will do it with the young men, just a normal, typical one. There are many others in different cultures, but the one that is normally basic is where the old men will come and the young men will come, and there will be a transfer of masculinity either through stories of the past or just a teaching session, and after that a man will feel, yeah, this is what really manhood is all about, and we can also become real. If right now, peradventure, we walk outside here and you find a woman crying, what are we likely to do?
As men or as a woman?
Anyone. We are likely, if it's as men, we'll care for
the woman.
Yes. Now find a grown man like me crying.
It's because society tells men they're not allowed to have emotions. Men don't cry.
We'll cry because
even
of society.
For a little boy, how many times have you had a little boy be told, acha kulia, vijana hawali?
Yes. And it's because really, of course, we'll actually say, wacha kutuaibisha, wacha umama, you know, such things. But it's to realize that, you know, society does not allow us to be weak. And there are no structures that actually deal with some of the issues that men are going through.
Chris, you had something to add in?
When I'm in my cave, because I'm going through certain issues, there is a respect within the men not to disturb you in that cave until you're ready to come out. And the most interesting thing, when you come out, guys will ask you, uko poa sasa sawa? Let's have a beer.
Does that add on to that whole discussion that goes on social media, that the girl child is over-empowered, the boy child is neglected?
I don't think a real man is really scared of a woman who is empowered. Personally, I'm not. I'm married to one right now.
just to be sure.
So I do not have a problem with that.
Yeah.
It's only that sometimes the two of you really need to retreat and have a real talk. If I have an issue that is disturbing me, and you as a lady, you feel I'm in my cave, give me time, I'll get out, okay? And how I get out, don't put expectations to it, that now when I get out, I'll be bubbly about it. In fact, I might decide I do not want to discuss it. So how do you deal with that?
We are living in a society now where men are socialized to look at women as objects of pleasure, and unfortunately, women are socialized to look at men as objects of success. So then it becomes transactional, whereby that is what the slave queen will give to the man, whether he's her age or older, and in exchange, the man expects the slave queen to give him something else. And what then we have is, perhaps, since I'm talking to a room full of men, do you feel that in a way, we've been socialized, our young boys have been socialized to believe that the higher your body count, you understanding, like, have fun, do it all, so that when you settle, you settle. I've heard that expression so many times. Diane.
A woman plays the role in making the man feel comfortable to speak. She plays a role. She has to give him peace. And also on the flip side, most men tend to have an issue when it comes to being vulnerable. We don't want to be vulnerable, which is why we focus more on the physical things. We focus more on a car, a house, and whatnot. You find like a father is not there for the child, but they go like, I pay the school fees, I pay for that, because that's what we focus on, because we don't want to be vulnerable. But when you're vulnerable, you become vulnerable to your friends, you become vulnerable to your wife, and also you become vulnerable to your children. Vulnerability doesn't mean crying in front of your children. It means having a conversation. How are you feeling? How is your day? That's being vulnerable, opening up and talking. I have had counseling sessions where I have witnessed men cry. They break down. Yeah. They break down because they realize what how much they're self-destructing on their own, or also how much they've actually hurting other people around them. And you see, we need to get to that place of vulnerability where we can ask for help, where we can talk things out, because this is how men cry. They cry through porn. They cry through sex. They cry through booze. They cry through a lot of things. And all of these things are external symptoms of something not being addressed inside. A lot of us, we are lone rangers. And when you're a lone ranger and then money checks in, no one can tell you anything.
Yeah.
When you're a lone ranger and then you have money, no one can tell you anything until you're vulnerable enough to just say, okay, maybe I'm not right. Beyond this physical body that looks masculine is a human spirit. And that human spirit needs to open up and talk, needs to be okay, needs to feel safe. Because this is love. Love is doing to someone what you'd want them to do to you. And I like to ask men, when your woman cries and then you listen to her and then you sort out her problems, how does it feel? It feels good, right? You feel like you're the man. Why are we denying women that chance to feel good about themselves? Because women want to help us. They want to hug us. They want to hear us out. They want to know that I've had a bad day and I can tell my wife, you know what? That tender didn't go through. It's okay, darling. We'll pull through. It means a lot.
I want to ask a question on that. And again, this to Mwakideo and Kirwa. Mm-hmm. Are you vulnerable enough to be in that emotional space with your partner?
Let's start with him.
Yes.
In front of my wife.
Yes. Are you vulnerable enough? Do you think, maybe has it happened? Can it happen? Are you vulnerable?
It has never happened.
Okay.
I will be very honest. I can't even remember the last time nililia mimi kiukweli. I can't remember. I think it was probably in 2011 when my dad passed on.
But if it had to, would you be comfortable in that moment to let the tears?
Why is it important?
Why should?
My main focus is not tears.
Yeah,
my main focus is talk.
Why are we crying?
Look at that.
It's not tears. My main focus is not tears. You see, men cry in different ways, and sometimes our tears are not visible. They're not visible. But you can tell there's a lot of hurting men out there. That's the reason why a lot of us are committing suicide. If you look at those committing suicides more, it is men.
It's true.
It is men. Why?
No, but you see, Tamima, when something is happening, I always say, I have my mentors, right? The people I look up to, okay? I have like 2 or 3 people. I call them even in the middle of the night. I have once cried to a man I look up to, all right? In the middle of the night, I called them and I was crying. Once, I remember. Now that's
so it's twice
now. You get, it happened once, kitambo sana, like more than 10 years ago.
Yeah. Michael, you share this, yeah? You know, you are literally synonymous with television in Kenya, right? And you shared that really at the point where you are at the peak of your career, you were dealing with some stuff.
It's interesting you bring that up. Let me contextualize it. And maybe it might go to what is for some people at the core of it. Brought up and raised very well, thanks to my parents. I know who a man is, and I know how to treat a woman. I get into a job which I really enjoy doing. I enjoy doing it because I love doing it. Then I allow, in getting into that job, making what people say become what's most important. So you come to me and say, Michael, I love the way you dress. Note in my mind, I need to always dress like this. Mm-hmm. Michael, I like the way you cut your hair. That barber has a hard time. Make sure it always looks the same. You know, and all these things that now come to play. So am I now living my life or living everyone's life? And the more I get into living everyone's life, mind you, I contribute myself to it too. And I get swayed by this and swayed by that. And when I say this, that, there are some ladies in between too. So I'm in relationships, but I'm not in them. So I find myself going in this spiral of living a facade out here, crying inside for something that I don't even know what I want, but reaching out. Now, what was key at that point, apart from, family, my siblings being very supportive, as I shared already, is a belief in God. But I also saw that there were people, including those people, who were praying. And that there was a lot that was happening in my life, not because they were there telling me, but because they were there supporting the spirit, and supporting physically by coming and then being kicked out or whatever it might be. And when I look back now, I can see how that was really critical.
Men are dealing with a lot. Men are depressed, but they're not acknowledging it. So for you, you had to acknowledge it to get out of it.
Now, that is a critical aspect. But it's not acknowledging that I am depressed. In fact, you might not even know that you're depressed. I can talk about depression in retrospect. When you're in it, you're in it. Now, I think there's some things that contribute to us being depressed, male and female alike. You start on a path that you know you should not start on, one way or the other, whatever it might be. And then you really now get into a fix because you sort of like it, but you also know how it destroys you. And then eventually you give up to it. And when you give up to it, you get so frustrated. But eventually, at some point, I made choices. I made choices that led me further down, or choices that could have instead lifted me up. Did I have the body of information and knowledge that could have helped me? I can say in my situation, I did. And for a long time in my life, I was living by that body of information, and things were okay. And then I made a choice at some point. I am putting this body of information aside so that I can fulfill this which I want. And I tell you for certain, that decision with others was the point of precipitation. How did I get out of it? I accepted, by God's grace, came to a point of seeing I did something that I shouldn't have done, or I have been doing something that I shouldn't have been doing. And I faced it. And I accepted my contribution. I accepted how it affected me, that it really made me feel this way or that way. And as I went through that journey of accepting even what I might have received from other people that was not good, and what was good, I have found that I am more capable of now, getting up, going, working, coming, seeing, sitting here, and speaking.
Okay, so I want to open it up to the audience. Does anybody have a question in the audience?
I'll give you a very simple, it's the 3 Ps I usually look at, and probably the society has seen protection plus provision equals power. Anywhere you go, like at home, if you're the guy, you protect and you provide, you're the powerful one, and the lack thereof becomes useless. And women will look at you in your face and tell you, by the way, unakuanga useless. Or rather, you go somewhere and you give a point, people cheer him up. In as much as he hasn't maybe said something important, but because he has power and he's protective, he's the powerful one in the room. Atasema, niaje wase, everyone will faint in the room, And then you become like the useless guy. Like, I want to be a successful radio presenter. Mwakideo, I listen to you every single day, even if it's for 20 minutes. And I have a switch in, I have a switch in which I listen to all the great guys that I look up to. But then at the end of the run, I'm a new kid on the block, like 8 months, 1 year and a half months in the game. I don't have the power, and people look at me and they see me as useless. And most of the young guys are actually going through the same. So if you are ridiculed, leave alone, you're just trying to do your job and trying to be that guy. You're working towards your craft, and then someone comes to your comment section and goes like, you know what, ridicule. They're like, you're trying to be like Mwakideu. So I'm asking myself, how then do I survive as a young person and become successful if I'm not like actually aping and trying to find myself in the same space?
Could I speak briefly into it, just because off the back of what I said? Yeah. You see, you're actually reflecting what I told you just now. You look into the comment and they say, and you take it.
You take it in, yeah.
Now, it's a hard situation now. I mean, I thank God that I wasn't in television when there was social media. It's a lot. There's so much that comes at you. But the truth is, what choice have you made? How do you want to go forward? You need to be sure about the path that you're taking, the choice that you have made. These guys who now have power, they did not have it at some point. So what gave them the power? They kept at it. They did and continued doing and created a whole body of, now people know them as Mwakideu. Before you would have asked who is Mwakideu. Now you know who it is. But he worked. He worked when no one else was watching and had to. And now that everyone can see, everyone thinks, wow.
Yeah.
it is unfair to be compared that way, but you need to know who you are, know where you are, and then just take your steps. Otherwise, you will sink.
Again, I think I want to add on to that. I think there's a lot of, there's a big issue when it comes to choices you make, the choices you make in your life. Because life is about choices. The decisions you make, you know, they're going to help you to become who you want to become in your future. Yeah, so me hata kuna one of the people who I really look up to, aliniambia Mwakideu, even issues of love. The issues, you grow in love, you don't even fall in love, you're right? You don't fall in love, you grow in love. And before you even grow in love, you have to decide. After kutoka kwa nyumba ya babako na mamako, you will be making choices throughout your life until the last day. You understand? So ukitoka pale, when you meet the right woman, first of all, you have to decide if she's the right woman. When you decide, even when you get married to this woman, kanisani pia, hakuna tati, do you love Tamima? Hapana. Do you take? You have to decide. You say, yes, I do. You understand? That's why you say yes, and pastors will ask you, do you take? In good and bad times, unasema, okay, sawa, nimekubali. Hakuna mambo ya mapenzi hapa na ma feelings. Ni utakubali ama utamwa? Unasema nimekubali. Ukisema nimekubali, serikali inasema tick. God anasema tick. The people, your family, na nini tick amekubali. So it's just about choices throughout.
So, comments, and I'm happy what he's saying. I also grew up, I think I'm in between. I grew up when there was no social media, and now I'm in it. And two things I came to realize. You cannot take those guys who are commenting negatively serious.
Yes.
You cannot give them that power.
Yes.
The first
They're also
thing
hurting.
Yeah.
If someone is hating on you, they're hurting. That's the one thing that I've
That's what
learned
I'm saying.
consistently.
Yes. Like us, we've been hit 3 times by a blogger, and I think we all know him. And we decided there were 2 things we were going to do. Either we react to it and decide to lash out and do. We decided we will ignore him. As in, we sat down and said, look at each other like this with my wife and said, we'll ignore this guy. And from today onwards, we'll be ignoring any negative comment. We will not allow it to seep into our spirit completely.
It's not easy.
Number 2, him, Jalash, they're my friends. But maybe, as much as probably they even started lower than me, they have come and overtaken me. Now, you also have to reach at a place and know your speed to your journey of success, the way you define it, will not be as equal, the same speed with him.
Yeah.
Some people will overtake you. You will overtake some people who had started early. You have to accept that. That's all what I mean.
Finally, David, as you wind up.
I think I'm also young like you. I'm not yet married. I will very soon. But I can really feel what you're saying because I've been in the same space. I mean, just recently, I was just in another event. We were just doing this wedding rehearsal. And then there were 3 cars parked in our parking lot. So when we finished, we started walking. And then a friend of mine goes into this NZD. There was a Prado, and then there was my car, which I have. So anyway, it's a Honda. It's a Honda.
Which I have.
Yes.
Yeah, it's a Honda. So anyway, a wedding rehearsal, you're normally paired with someone, and I was paired to this lovely lady. And so anyway, to cut the long and short of it is, that lady was the one who came and, you know, just she took the keys and then just opened. So in me, I felt, wow, what am I doing with my life? There was a form of pressure. There was a form of pressure, and I was like, I can't drive out. Let her drive out first, and then I will tag along after. But I remembered what I'd learned in terms of the definitions of manhood that we teach in Man Enough. And that is what really made me confident again. So my point is this. For many of us as men, many of us really, not everyone, there's an identity crisis whereby if I don't have these things, who am I? Who am I really as a man? At the end of the day, there are some men who define themselves by how they drink. So if I drink 4 bottles of Pilsner, I feel as I'm a man. When I have body counts with this certain number of ladies, I feel, yeah, but still it's an endless game because you're still looking for that definition every time. It's like a bottomless pit, if I can say, where it can't be filled. Every time we're trying to define ourselves with these things. It's really up to you to decide, are you going to allow others to really define and what others are saying, or what the society is really defining, or saying that this is who we are, to really define me.
Remember, this is a topic that we obviously cannot exhaust in this one sitting, and I really do hope that we spoke to somebody out there tonight. You learned something as a man, picked up some positive value. Remember, you can get on that hashtag, #RealTalk. Let us know what your views, comments, and feedback is generally. If there are any topics you want us to discuss here on this show, get on that hashtag. Tweet me at Miss Tamima. Well, right now, from me, the crew, my audience, my guest, thank you so much for tuning in. Until next time, enjoy the rest of your viewing.